Welcome to my channel, Olushala Live. My name is Olushala Taiwo. I'm so glad you tuned into my channel. And here today we are going to be reading from an amazing author's book. Her name is Kehinde Adeola Ayeni. The name of the book is Our Mother's Sore Expectations. And she just happens to be an highly accomplished author and my cousin. Here we go. We're going to continue to today's chapter 4B, continuing from page 108. Okay? If you like anything on this channel, if you like this reading, if you like this book, please feel free to email her at kehindeayeni26@gmail.com. Her first name, her last name at number 26@gmail.com. Okay? Thank you so much, and you can like my channel and share this video and any other video that you see here that you like. Here we go, page 108 of chapter 4. When Teju got off the bus at the depot in Ajegunle, she told the driver that she came from a village and was looking for Big Daddy's home. The driver looked at her with fear written all over his face and drove away. Some of the people around who overheard her looked at her strangely as well. She walked around some more and asked two other people, but they both hurried away without answering her. She concluded that the adults would not help her. Apparently, everyone was scared of the man, and they did not even want to hear his name. She saw a group of young boys about 9 years old playing soccer, and she went over to them. "Take me to Big Daddy's house now," she instructed the children. They stopped playing their game and asked her to follow them. They took her to a house right in the middle of the neighborhood, one she had walked by several times. On the outside, it did not look like much, but when she went in through the front door, which was left wide open, and which nobody answered when she knocked on it and pressed the bell, she was amazed because the back was a castle with many doors and security gadgets. She knocked on one of the many doors. A young man opened it and in a menacing manner demanded from her what she wanted. She told him that she had come to see Big Daddy. He wanted to know what for, and she told him that it was between Big Daddy and her. He looked at her for a while and pushed her roughly against the wall. Teju caught herself by hugging the wall before she lost her balance. She asked him what he thought he was doing. He continued to glare at her. Teju warned him that if he touched her one more time, he would be very sorry. He appeared fazed by the confident way she told him that. He wanted to know who she was and why she had come to see his boss. Teju commanded him, "Go and tell Big Daddy that a woman is here from a village far away to see him. Tell him that I have the most important piece of information he could ever hope to get for him. I am not afraid of you and I am not leaving. If you don't do that now, you'll be sorry, because I will get to speak with Big Daddy today, and when I do, I will tell him that you assaulted me." The man looked at her for a long time, weighing the situation in his mind. Teju fixed her huge eyes on him without blinking. He finally said to her, "Come with me." He took her directly to Big Daddy, and Teju was surprised. Based on his name and reputation, she had expected a very huge, very dark, fat, scary man with yellow beady eyes. But the sight before her was the exact opposite. He was a very small man, barely 5 feet tall, with very light complexion, even lighter than her biracial child, and very thin too, with the gentlest face she had ever seen. She looked at him and thought of his daughter that was killed by "I go get some for you." She had the urge to take him in her arms and comfort him. She stopped the feeling, however, by reminding herself that he was evil as well. After all, he was a mafia boss and had had people killed. The younger man told Big Daddy what Teju told him. He said that he believed her, and that was why he brought her to the older man. The younger man, who was twice the size of Big Daddy and some 30 years younger, was obviously afraid of the tiny man. Teju told Big Daddy that she was from Iroko. She told him the story of how a man who recently moved to town had been harassing everybody, raped a 14-year-old girl repeatedly, beat the woman he just married, and how only 3 days before had threatened to kill her 4-year-old daughter if she did not sleep with him. Someone who did not want her to mention his or her name had suggested that she come to Big Daddy for help regarding the situation, and going down on her knees in obeisance, she concluded, "I hope you can help me and my fellow town people, sir." "What is the name of this man?" Big Daddy asked her in a very soft voice. I don't know, sir, but they call him I go get some for you, she replied. Big Daddy immediately stood up from his seat and came toward her. Did you say his name is I go get some for you? He asked her, unable to conceal his excitement. Yes, sir. That is what people call him, and that is how he introduces himself to people. Big Daddy rocked back and forth on the ball of his feet in his excitement. The younger man who had been hostile to Teju earlier on offered her a chair. He asked her if she would like to eat or drink something. She declined and thanked him. She told Big Daddy that she had to leave since she had she had some shopping to do in Lagos before returning home. Big Daddy came up to her and hugged her. Thank you, my good child, and God will bless you. You don't know how much this request for help from you means to me. I am not the one helping you. Rather, it is you who have come to help me, and I will forever be in your debt. He dug in his pocket and brought out some bills of money that he offered to Teju. Teju knelt down again and thanked him but refused the money. He dug in his pocket again and brought a card. He gave it to Teju. It was blank except for a telephone number on it. He told her to call him on that number if she ever was in need again. I owe you a debt which I can never repay in full for as long as I live, and for that, if you ever need me, just call. Teju thanked him again and left. Kike was thrilled to see her friend, whom she was not expecting. She was also concerned about Teju, who looked drained. She asked her what the matter was, and Teju told her everything. Kike became very angry and supported her friend's action in giving up the gangster. Teju was not happy though. I just killed a man, she told Kike sadly. Big Daddy will definitely have him killed today. How will I be able to live with myself? She asked her friend and started to cry. Kike explained to her that she had done the best thing she could do under the circumstances. If she had not helped Big Daddy find I Go Get Him for you, he would have continued to terrorize everyone in Iroko. She, Teju, would have had to start a sexual relationship with him to ensure the safety of her child, or make the principal take Ireti away to live in England. All of which are no options just because of a psychopath. You did the right thing, Teju, and besides, you didn't kill him. His blood will not be on your hands, and he deserves to die. He took a life, so he is not entitled to enjoy a life. Teju thanked her friend for telling her all these things that she already told herself. She had explained the same thing to herself all day. But what she was more worried about was that she had formed a relationship with somebody in the mafia. True, Big Daddy had said he was the one indebted to her, and she believed him. But they now had a bond between them. What if he comes looking for me to ask for one favor or the other? She did not know what to do. She wondered why life could not be easier to live. But she also knew, as she had always known, that it was not always easy to live. Some people are out to deprive you of your right to freedom and happiness, and I am not someone to stomach unacceptable things. I would rather die. Ours is a country where the government does not work for the people, and individual freedom is infringed upon all the time. But in my corner of the world in Iroko, I will continue to fight to keep my freedom, my dignity, and my rights. And that is exactly what I have done, she assured herself again. She cheered up with all these thoughts, and she spent the night with Kike and her fiancé. The next day, when she arrived in Iroko by the first bus out of Lagos, the whole town had an air of excitement about it. When she got off the bus at the bus stop right in the market, a lot of her colleagues were talking excitedly in groups, and some were dancing. There were too many people there as well, especially it being Sunday when most of them usually took the day off. She went over to a group, and as she approached them, they came to her and, while dancing, hugged her and each other as if they were seeing one another for the very first time. We won! They shouted and danced. God is on our side and we triumphed. Teju asked what happened, and they told her that I Go Get Him for you was dead, as well as 5 other men in his gang, including the 2 who threatened her the other day. They were killed overnight and their bodies were left in front of the bar. The women had an impromptu meeting that morning, and it was decided that the market would be open for business since their tormentors were dead. They rejoiced and hugged one another over and over again. Another group started to dance and sing, Jesu Bala, Otuwoso, Ara ore ewato oimomo. Thanking Jesus for delivering them from their enemies. Teju walked slowly away from the rejoicing women with a heavy heart. She kept thinking, I have arranged for a man to be killed. What have I done? All the reassurances from Kika of the previous day did not help her. She also knew that she could not tell her parents and brothers what had happened. Kika would be the only one to know. It is going to be a burden I will carry around with me. The price to keep my home safe and my freedom, she concluded. If you live by the sword, you shall perish by the sword, her mother quoted when she arrived home sharing the news with her. They all got what they deserved, was her father's only comment. That is what you get for terrorizing innocent, hard-working people who haven't done you any harm. They asked her about her trip and they thought she would stay longer in Lagos. She said she decided to come back right away since she had a lot of work to do at home. She quietly walked to her room. She started to miss Ireti in an unbearable way after she had been gone for 4 days. Ireti was fine, according to the principal, when they spoke with him on the phone. Even though she had asked for her mother and grandparents a few times and had cried some, she had settled down but had been clinging to her father more than usual. The principal joked that he enjoyed clinging to Ireti, especially since he had not been home in some 40 years and everything seemed strange and different to him. He had been able to contact a brother of his and 2 of his deceased wife's sisters. They had been thrilled to see him and had welcomed Ireti. Teju opened her shop for business the following Wednesday. She had taken the first 2 days off and stayed in bed agonizing over the dead crooks. Mama Yabo and surprisingly the recently widowed again Mama Ade were there and they welcomed her warmly. Mama Ade said that she was not going to go through the motions of pretending to mourn the bastard I go get him for you, and that she was actually happy that he was dead. She had sent a canoe for her daughter who ran away, and now she can have her family back. She was done with men, she informed her neighbors. All she wanted to do was care for her 4 children. Later that day, the president of the Iroko Market Women Association sent for Teju, and when she met with her, the older woman hugged her and thanked her for all that she did to help them get rid of the tyrants. Teju, afraid that they might know that she gave the men up, said that she did not do more than any other woman in the market had done, but the president said that she did. She reminded Teju that she blew the whistle in the first place, confronted the chief of police, and explained their dilemma to the king, and that she believed that if she had not set all those things in motion, conditions would still have remained the same or even worse. Teju felt relieved, accepted her gratitude. The president then informed that she had been thinking of retiring since she was getting too old for the work involved with running of the market. The many meetings she had to attend with the other associations and other tasks involved. There would be an election at the next meeting that was a month away. She was thinking of nominating Teju for the position. She was sure that she would make a good leader because she had shown her commitment to the welfare of the people of Iroko by her actions of the previous week. She asked her to give it some thought. Teju thanked her for the vote of confidence and returned to her shop. Later at home, she told her parents and grandfather about the meeting with the president of the Market Women Association. Her grandfather smiled and without saying a word, but her father started to cry. She and her mother were taken aback and they asked him why he was crying. It took him a while to compose himself and he said to Teju, I have been waiting for this day. I am very proud of you. You chose your path and I have worked to and have tried to work with you in the past few years, and God knows it has not been easy. You have always had a mind of your own and I have been afraid for you. My dreams for you were that you would go to college and earn a degree like your brothers, that you would marry a doctor or a lawyer and start a family of your own. You wanted differently. You chose to become a single mother at the age of 18, and in a way that has taken all that I have in me to accept your choice. But the past 4 years have been my happiness. Coming home to Ireti every day has given me tremendous amount of joy, and she has also made the bond between the principal and me stronger. It is an unusual way, but I am happy that it is so. You chose to become a trader in the market. I was worried about that. I have nothing against the people who sell in the markets, but I wanted more for you. And when the events of the past week started to happen, I said to myself, this is why I didn't want my daughter in the market. It pitches you against monsters like that. I go get them for you. But you fought for what is rightfully yours and for all the other women. You fought for Iroko. I know why you went to Lagos, and I know that your trip has a lot to do with the death of those men. But I don't blame you. I commend you for your sense of integrity and fairness, and for your courage. There was a war on your hands that needed to be fought, and you fought it. That is what civilization is all about. Fighting for what is yours and carrying arms if it need be, against invading enemies. He looked towards his father and, smiling at the elderly man, continued, all through your childhood, I would go to my father after you had done one rebellious thing or the other, and I would tell him what you had done. He always had two answers for me. The first one is that God only gives a strong child to a strong man. And his second answer is that Teju will come into her own. She will bear her name with dignity. She will achieve a crowning glory. Her ways are just different from what you dreamt for her. Now your colleagues want you to be their leader. I believe, my father, you will be great, and this is the beginning, and I thank God for giving you to me. While he made this long speech, Bose started to cry too. She, on her part, had always known that Teju would become great in her own unconventional way. She was happy that her husband finally came to that realization. Teju hugged her grandfather and parents. She thanked them for always supporting her. She was also relieved that they knew that she gave I go get you up to be killed. It lessened the burden for her. She continued to miss Ireti so much that she decided that she would go to England to get her. She did not want the principal to cut his trip short, but she did not think she would survive the remaining 10 days of the vacation without her daughter. So the following Monday, she bought a ticket and went to London to join them. She was so relieved to see her child happy, healthy, and safe that she started to cry again. The threat from I go get am for you to Ireti had really shaken her more than she realized. 4 days later, she returned home with Ireti, leaving the principal and his girlfriend to continue their vacation. The Iroko Market Women Association met as they planned and had the election. Teju was unanimously elected their president. She thanked them in her acceptance speech, promising to continue to work hard to protect their interests and for the good and safety of Iroko. She had just turned 23 years old at the time. Teju had dated 2 men in the previous 4 years, but she did not want to marry either of them because she did not feel that she loved them enough. From time to time, she would think of her future and the fact that she'd like to have more children. A lot of girls her age were married and were busy with their young families. Yinka returned to Iroko in 1980. He had graduated from high school with Teju and had gone on to the university in Ilori. However, he did not finish at the university because he had continued to fail. So finally, he dropped out and moved to Lagos, where he worked with his uncle, who was in the fish business. The uncle had several cold rooms and was a major distributor of frozen fish and seafood to many parts of the country. He got the fish from European fishing ships that prowled the Atlantic Ocean. He decided to expand his business to include Iroko and asked Yinka to take care of this. Yinka came to Teju for permission to build a cold room in the market, since she was the president of the Market Women Association. He explained to her in detail what it would involve. Before Teju gave him permission, she told him that she had to inform all the women in the market. They had to think about the implications of his proposal. Was it something that would benefit them, or would it be an unneeded competition? What were the long-term consequences of selling frozen fish in Iroko when rivers and lakes teeming with fishes surrounded the town? What would it mean for the local fishermen? She suggested that he speak with his uncle of the need to diversify into selling frozen poultry and pork. These would not cause much competition for anyone. Yinka thanked her for her suggestions and discussed the ideas with his uncle, who, even though had always sold seafood, decided that he would try other meat products and see how they sold. Teju reviewed Yinka's request to build a cold room in the market with the association members. The women asked several questions and expressed their concern, though some felt it might be good. The women who sold raw meat products wondered if he would work with them in renting out space to them to keep the meat they were not able to sell and offer them at lower cost to customers the next day instead of selling them at ridiculously cheap prices or even giving them away or throwing them away at the end of the day as they had been doing. The conclusion at the end of the meeting was that it might not be a bad idea to let him build his cold room, as it might even benefit everybody. Yinka was happy when Teju reported back to him. He worked with the women who sold meat as much as he could, renting space out to them to store their unsold products. He started to pay attention to Teju as well, and whenever he came to her shop and saw Ireti, he would admire the little girl and play with her. 6 months after his arrival, unexpectedly, he asked her to marry him. Teju did like him a lot, and she considered him a handsome man in his own way. What she liked most about him was his gentleness. She remembered him from when they were in school together. He had always been in the same class with her from primary 1 until they graduated from high school. He had always been a quiet person and would mind his own business and was very polite. He never tried to score with her like a lot of the other boys in her class. She also knew that he respected her. He was very kind to her daughter, and in his interactions with the other women in the market, there had not been any problems. Unlike with the other men, the women had to deal with from time to time, like the truck drivers who delivered goods to them, or the butchers, and even the many fishermen. She asked him to give her some time to think about his proposal, and that she would get back to him in about 2 weeks. Teju gave it a lot of thought. She was not excitedly in love with him, and it was an emotion she had never experienced. A lot of her friends had told her from time to time that they were crazy about one man or the other, especially Kika, who dated a lot of men, and she had been crazy about each and every one of them at the time she started to date them, only to tell Teju later that it had not worked out. She had not been able to understand that about her friend. For her, when she met a man, she felt one or other emotions for them. It was either that she found them attractive or she did not. She was also wary about men. A lot of them in her experience did not want her to be who she was. They always wanted to conquer or subdue her, and they would even promise her heaven and earth. Their promises did not mean much to her. She knew that she could work hard and earn the things for herself if she wanted them badly enough. Yinka, on the other hand, was a lot like her brother's father and grandfather. He was decent, kind, and respectful. He had not criticized her or commanded her, and it was obvious that he did not want to possess her. He had not even asked her to sleep with him, a request that she had received from some men within the first 2 times they spoke with her. She spoke with her parents about him, and that she was giving his proposal a lot of thought. She described his character to them, even though they knew him. They told her that they trusted her judgment and gave her their blessings. Later in the year 1990, they got married. It started as a good marriage, and Yinka continued to be the decent and kind man that Teju was able to gradually grow to love. 2 months after the marriage, she became pregnant, and they were both very thrilled. She gave birth to a baby boy in 1981, and Teju, who enjoyed motherhood a lot with Ireti, was very happy. However, with each doctor's visit for immunization, the doctor was concerned about the size of the baby's head. And finally, by the age of 6 months, it was obvious that something was very wrong. The baby was diagnosed as having hydrocephalus, and a tube was inserted to drain the excess fluid in his skull. He did not do well, and he died at the age of 9 months. Yinka and Teju were devastated. Their family members and their friends rallied around them and consoled them that it was probably for the best, that the condition had been too serious for the baby to live a normal life. 6 months after the baby died, Teju became pregnant again and gave birth to another baby boy whose head had been too big at the time of the delivery that they had to do an emergency cesarean section on her. The second baby had hydrocephalus, she was told again, and he died within a month of being born. Teju was so devastated that she told her mother that she did not want to have any more children and that she had resigned herself to having only Ireti. Yinka was depressed, and he admitted to his wife that the bad genes had come from him, as after all, Teju had given birth to a normal child before. It was a big strain on their marriage, and in that, Yinka started to withdraw from his wife. He would not share things with her either, and he had been a man who had always talked to her. Even though their shops were far apart in the market, he would come over to her shop 2 or 3 times a day to talk to her or ask her about one thing or the other. He stopped all of these. He became cold to her at home as well. Teju, being a woman who needed affection from her husband, did not like this. She brought this up with him on many occasions, and he would say that he did not know what was going on. Teju, in spite of being a free spirit with many lovers in the past, remained faithful to her husband. Not that men had not continued to come to her, even though they knew she was married. She did not want to be pushed to being unfaithful to Yinka, so she continued to talk to him about his withdrawing from her. She suggested that the 2 babies who had the same condition could have been some fluke of nature and that they should try once more to have a child. Yinka refused to sleep with his wife for a period of 5 months. They did not make love. Teju finally asked for a divorce. She told him that she did not want to remain in an affectionless marriage as she was too young to give up sex at the age of 25 years old. Yinka did not want to divorce her, but when she told him that it was either that they resumed their marriage as it was before or she was going to file for a divorce, he started to have sex with her again. 3 months after this, on a Monday morning, as Teju was opening for her shop for business, Mama Yabo came over and whispered that she had some things to discuss with her. Seeing how nervous the woman was, Teju let her into the shop and closed the door. Mama Yabo twisted her hands together and said to Teju, Mama Iretsi, you and I have been neighbors for almost 6 years now, and we have always looked out for one another. I consider you a very good friend, even though you are about 10 years younger than me. You have helped me a lot, and I hope that I have helped you a lot too. Teju told the woman that she had been incredible to her, especially with her problems of losing the children, and that she would be eternally grateful to her. Reassured, Mama Yabo continued, you are our president, and you have always done a great job. You have kept this market safe for all of us, and that is a lot. Something other markets in our towns can't boast of. You have given us a voice in this town, and our needs are always taken into consideration. This is probably the only place in the world where women are treated like people, and it is thanks to you. That is why I have to tell you this. It is going to break your heart, and I've been debating it in my mind to tell you or not for the past 3 months, but I concluded this morning that it would be worse for me not to tell you. It would be a betrayal of you on my part, so please forgive me. Teju continued to stare at the woman, and she waited patiently for her to finish her rambling and get to the point of what she had to say. She also realized that she was suffering, so she did not push her. Tung, the woman on the other side of the market, who sells shoes and bags, is 6 months pregnant, and the baby belongs to your husband. Mama Yabo finally blurted out and started to cry. Teju was not shocked. She calmly hugged the crying woman to her and thanked her for her love and concern and for telling her the news. She reassured her that she was grateful for the information. Mama Yabo, feeling relieved, asked her what she would do, and Teju told her that she did not know yet, but that she would give it a lot of thought. She thanked Mama Yabo again and returned to her shop. Teju felt sad. Yinka is a great person, she said to herself. Why did he do this? I have given him a lot of opportunities to get out of the marriage. Why didn't he take them and do things in an honorable way instead of hiding and doing things in secret? She knew the woman Tung very well, but all she felt for her was indifference. She stayed in her shop and took care of business for the day. And when she got home, she prepared dinner and did what they always do together as a family until Ireti went to bed. Why didn't you tell me that you were going to be a father? She asked Yinka. He started to shake and stammer. He could not say anything coherent, and Teju said to him, please don't lie to me. It would just make things worse. He started to cry, and Teju sat there and thought to herself, I am the one who has been wronged, and what everybody has been doing around me is cry. She let him cry for as long as he wanted, and when he was done, he started to beg her. I don't know what came over me, he said to her. I needed to test myself. I needed to know if the thing I needed to know if the thing is that I couldn't father normal children. You have a normal child, and I don't have any. The doctor told me that it could be a combination of the two of us together that is producing these deformed babies. I needed to know. I am sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you, he sobbed. But that is exactly what you've done. You've betrayed me. How many times have I asked you if you wanted out of the marriage? You always told me that no, that you don't. So you want to stay married to me and sleep around? And the woman, what are your plans for her? When she finally gives you a normal baby, what do you plan to do with her and the child? You know what? I release you. Go to her. The marriage is over and I want you to leave now. Teju left him in the living room and went to sleep in Ireti's room. Yinka packed a bag and left that night. The following day, Teju hired a truck and packed all her belongings. She returned home to her parents. When she told them all that happened, her father started to cry, and she said that she felt a lot of sadness. 2 weeks later, her sadness turned into rage when she discovered she was pregnant again. She cursed herself for convincing Yinka to sleep with her again, and she cursed her body that always craved for sex. I should have gone out of the marriage and slept with other men with protection, she admonished herself. Something told her at the time that the baby she was crying would be deformed like the other two, and she was angry at herself for putting herself in a position that she had to go through the agony again. She thought of having an abortion, but she was strongly against it. She looked at Ireti and remembered how Aki had suggested an abortion when she was pregnant with her, and she cringed at the thought of what that would have meant. She told her mother that she was pregnant again, and the two parents took care of her and supported her as always. 3 months later, the woman carrying Yinka's baby delivered a healthy baby boy, and 2 weeks after the boy was born, they moved out of Iroko and relocated in Ibadan. Teju did not tell him that she was pregnant for him at the time. By the time she was just 4 months pregnant, her fears were confirmed. Her abdomen had bulged like she was 7 months pregnant or with twins. She went to the hospital for some tests, and the baby indeed had hydrocephalus again. A week later, she went into premature labor, and her doctor was reluctant to do a cesarean section on her since it was obvious that the baby would not live. They performed a procedure in which they had passed a tube through her vagina to drain the fluid in the baby's head. It made it easier for her to deliver it vaginally. It was a baby girl. When Teju and her parents had gone to the hospital with her, arrived home the day after she was delivered of the dead baby girl, they met Oluiroko in their house, and they knew something was terribly wrong because the king does not leave his palace. Oluiroko came out of the house to meet them at the car. He strode over to Bayo, who was helping Teju out of the car. He hugged him. The king had tears in his eyes, and Bayo knew that his father was dead. Bayo helped his daughter into the house and into her room. Teju laid on her bed and started to cry. She too knew that her beloved grandfather was dead. She did not go with her parents to her grandfather's room that was in the courtyard extension of the house. She stayed in her room and held on to her daughter, who had crawled into bed with her. Bayo, Bosse, and Oluiroko went together to Baba's room, and when his son and daughter-in-law saw his body on the bed, they went over to one another and embraced. Oluiroko stayed with the Bankoles for the rest of the day, consoling them and consoling himself. Baba Bankole had been his best friend for over 80 years, almost all of their lives. Baba was buried 3 days later. His grandchildren and children were present for the funeral, as well as almost the whole of Iroko town, with most of the citizens returning home from wherever it is they had moved to make their lives. Teju fell into a deep depression from all the bereavements. She had loved her grandfather very much, and she was convinced that her heart would never heal from all the losses. She wondered why God did not pace things out for her and why they had to come on the heels of one another. She did not go to the market for weeks, and her mother had to start opening her shop so that she would not lose her customers. She stayed in bed and started to question herself. She had always been a confident person, but perhaps there was something wrong with her. She wondered if the gene responsible for the deformed babies had anything to do with her huge eyes. She asked her surgeon brother, who told her that he did not think so, and asked her what was wrong with her eyes. Teju did not think that anything was wrong with her eyes, even though a lot of people in her town thought so. As a little girl, other children would make fun of her eyes and they would tell her that they were huge. Her grandfather, parents, and brothers, on the other hand, always told her that her eyes were very beautiful, and she believed them. As an adult, whenever she had a conflict with anyone, they always targeted her eyes and called them all kinds of bad names. She was the only one in the family with eyes like that. So in her moment of depression, while searching for the reasons for not being able to have a normal child, she turned to her eyes. She vowed to herself that she would not allow herself to go through the agony of being pregnant again, and anxiously waiting to find out if the child was normal or not. She was done with that part of her life, she decided, and she was done with men. She did not think she could allow a man to touch her ever again and plant a deformed seed inside of her. She wept for weeks, stopped eating, and lost a lot of weight that she could not afford to lose. Here endeth the reading of chapter 4b on page 123. The next time you see me, I will be reading from chapter 5, beginning on page 124. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you so much. If you like what you've heard or any other videos on my channel, go ahead and like it, share it with your friends and family, and please subscribe to my channel, Olushola Live. Have a good day, and bye for now. And remember to email kendeayeni26@gmail.com. Here is the spelling of her name. First name, last name, 26@gmail.com. That is the author if you want to buy her book or if you want to contact her directly. Bye for now. Ciao. Odabo.